Hello, everyone. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the program where myself, Dan Selcke of winnerscoming.net, and Mia Johnson of fansided.com talk all things in theory, talk all things fantasy, sci-fi, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, etc., and so forth. But for the last couple of weeks, because the world and the entertainment industry have been beset by a cavalcade of catastrophes, both beyond our control and man-made. We've been discussing things like how Hollywood's reacted to the Black Lives Matter protests, and we have some more controversies this week. Mia, how are you feeling about all the fun topics we get to talk about?
You know, there's a lot. I think the most surprising thing, though, is the momentum that's going. It's not a one and done thing, and I think the people of the world are like, we're going to continue on with this.
It is, which is actually very. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was kind of being cynical there, but you're right. At the end of the day, these are important things to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. I am just a nervous person. Part of me is like, what if I offend people? Why can't I go back to talking about Narnia, which we'll do a little later.
Yeah.
But
well,
first,
it's a time for learning and trying. So, but
it's a time.
Yes. Right. But first,
I was gonna say, hello everybody watching. Hey Lisa, hey Nadal, Jorenna, Thiago, Cindy, of course Julie. Thanks for watching. If you like what we're going to ramble about today, feel free to find us on iTunes, Take the Black Live, leave an 80,000 star review, leave a comment. We appreciate those. You can also join the Wit Club. I know Wit Club t-shirt, and we'll talk about that a little later. But okay, let's get into it. Mia, this week, the Black Lives Matter protests continued, and I wanted to focus on just like what kind of people in the entertainment industry are doing. So we had Game of Thrones star Sophie Turner out there with her husband Joe Jonas, flashing a silence is violence sign. Pretty cool. She's like been the one Game of Thrones star who's been out in front, really.
Yeah.
Kind of doing it. Although I will say, Carrie Ingram, who played Shireen Baratheon, the girl who got burned at the stake, has been out there too. But
oh wow! All right. Well, hey.
So good for her.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And just lots of folk. We got like Sam Heughan from Outlander, Pink, Brad Pitt, Zoe Kravitz, Ben Affleck, so on and so on and so forth. And one of the best, and some folk have come out here and kind of done more than just protest. They've kind of talked about important issues, like John Boyega the last week had a very moving speech about Black Lives Matter. And this week, Michael B. Jordan, who plays Killmonger in Black Panther, came out and talked a little bit about like how Hollywood can move forward from this. We've all been talking about how are these protests going to effectuate changes in the justice system, among police, among prisons. But, everyone has their specialty, and Boyega and Jordan's not going to talk about that. He's going to talk about, I'm in Hollywood, how can that change? He talked about the need to hire more, black directors, agents, staff, like not just actors, like get more people of color into the system that makes these movies. What did you think of his comments?
Yeah, it was a really, really moving speech. I kind of have a little excerpt here where, he's saying, what is the challenge to commit to Black hiring? Black content leads to Black executives, Black consultants. Are you policing our storytelling as well? Let us bring our darkness to the light. And yeah, it's this kind of weird chain where it's like, yes, Black people or any, people of color can come out and say, hey, I have an idea for a movie, or hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. But it's ultimately up to the people above them, the studio executives, casting, all those people to, give it the green light or give it the red light. So I think what he's saying is that, it's just, and I mean, really in anything, it's not enough to just kind of sit back in one area and say, oh, well, we've got, one Black person here, one Black person there, and it's fine. In the lens of Hollywood, which is what we're talking about, it really is about, having people, people who come from this experience to be able to these types of movies. If you say, oh, I want to make a movie about what it's like to, and off the top of my head, be a Black person attending a publicly white institution. Somebody might say, oh, I don't get that. Why would anybody want to see that movie? But it's kind of like, well, this is a big, universal experience for this audience. So, it's basically a matter of, can't relate, so not going to support type of thing. to end my rambling on.
Okay, I'll try and pick it up and add some of my own. I mean, yeah, well, you always hear about the importance of diversity, but it's so easy to kind of say we need diversity, but that kind of boils down to we tweeted that we need diversity, or you put a person on there. But I think the idea is just that if you have people in the infrastructure of building any business, really, like movies, police, TV, that's going to build a bigger Congress that will build like a support base to grow from there. Like it has to be institutionalized in a way that it's just not. I think that's what a lot of this is about.
Yeah. I would say it's the difference between like something that was really kind of controversial this last week or so was like The Help was kind of like, I think it's like probably the number one, top 10 movie on Netflix. And it was like, that's a great movie, but it doesn't really shed any light on the, like the real experiences of Black people, or it kind of, like they say, suffers from the white savior syndrome, where it's like, it's about, the Black maids and their experience, but more so it's like, Bryce Dallas Howard and Emma Stone, coming to the rescue. And that's an old narrative, and embedded in our history. And so it's like, we kind of have to, put that to an end, wipe out these stereotypes and put out stories that are, more telling, that are more authentic. Even though this is my last rambling, Netflix came out with a list of Black Lives Matters movies and TV shows to watch. All you have to do is type in like Netflix/Black Lives Matter. And it's a really, really well curated list of movies that actually do their part in telling these stories.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. It's kind of like a half measure thing, right? Like The Help, or like Green Book is another example of a movie that won the Oscar. That's like, this is a movie about the Black experience told from the perspective of a white man who learns how to not be racist, which is nice. Yeah. I think the criticism is that, okay, but it's not really, it's still about a white person. It's not really centering the Black experience. And that to me is like a half measure. Like that's something that if you want to really have change, and Hollywood's powerful, right? I mean, Hollywood creates stories that become part of the popular consciousness that we all talk about and we all learn from as kids, as adults. And so if you really want to use the platform you have to do the most good, you should commit to telling, stories that honestly do center other experiences. We'll get to using platforms for good or bad in a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever know?
Go ahead, because I'll probably waste the whole podcast time talking about this.
I was going to ask if you had a note about how does K-pop fit into this?
Yes, that's right, K-pop. So in line, going back kind of to the the celebrities making a difference, I believe so. It was BTS went ahead and their company, whoever manages them, made a pledge to donate $1 million to Black Lives Matter, or a large sum of money. And this one is what I think is interesting. It's like the BTS fandom, or just the K-pop fandom in general, are so good at mobilizing that they match that donation that BTS made. And all the fans collectively, I believe they exceeded their goal of raising $1 million to match the contribution that BTS made. So it is really interesting to see how kind of, fandom fits into this as a way of kind of rallying together and saying, we're going to support this cause, we're going to donate, we're going to help every way we can. As well as, the K-pop fans took over some of those hashtags. I don't even want to mention them, but, any hashtag with some bad rhetoric in them, and just flooded it with fan camps, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. So they're doing their part too, and they earned their little badge.
K-pop, man. I may have to start getting into K-pop because, those people show up.
Yeah.
They do stuff. They are always active. Yeah. It is a mystery I might have to plumb. Maybe we'll have to talk about it sometime. All right. Shall we move on? Do we have anything more to say about this?
Oh, let's move on.
Okay. we're moving on to a new exciting topic. So, try to talk about this while not stumbling over myself, because this is another area where I'm just not telling, because I don't know, it's kind of out of my lane. All right. J.K. Rowling, the noted author of such books as the Harry Potter books, which have sold, I don't even want to, a lot of freaking copies, millions and millions of copies, millions and millions of dollars. Over the past couple of days, has stirred up some controversy, and she is no stranger to controversy, by the way. Like, she tends to stir this stuff every once in a while for lots of different reasons. Basically, her latest reason for being on the hot seat is that she first tweeted a couple of tweets that, I'll just say it, were transphobic. Basically, this argument that, talking about how she believes that sex is real, she's kind of making fun of, it's
like
trans
a
women.
sex versus gender thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Not like, the act, like, just to clear that up.
I don't know if, I mean, basically, what she's saying boils down to, I think it's a fair reading, that trans men aren't really men, trans women aren't really women, because, she's saying, if sex isn't real, none of this is true. So it's implying that because sex is determinative, is real, if you are born with genitalia, you are a man, born with genitalia, you're a woman, and basically trans people aren't valid. Lot of blowback, lot of attention, still ongoing, because she just published editorial.
A long statement trying to her. I don't. Yeah, I backed out like halfway through. It was taking me forever. I was like, Joanne, please.
And she just doubled down too.
Yeah.
So like, basically, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but like the gist of it, I think, is that she is what people refer to as a TERF, a trans exclusionary radical feminist, which means she is kind of cloaking transphobia with feminist platitudes. Like, she's misrepresenting these arguments. Like, there's this one bit in her essay where she talks about, like, I care about people with MS, which is a disease that is treated differently in men and women. But if sex is erased legally, that will, like, somehow, ... it'll be bad for them. It's like, how would that make any difference? Like, at all? So that's basically the gist. So without getting into the rather robust discourse around trans issues, around transphobia, around TERFs, let's skip to the bit where Daniel Radcliffe calls her out and writes an essay for the Trevor Project, which is a LGBTQ suicide prevention nonprofit organization, basically saying, I disagree. So that trans women are women, trans men are men. Any statement to the contrary erases the identity and dignity of transgender people and goes against all advice given by professional healthcare associates who have far more expertise in the subject matter than either Joe or I. And what I wanted to focus on was this bit where he talked about kind of how do you deal with something you love, be it a book, a movie, a TV show, or anything, when the person who creates it maybe has politics that you disagree with to the extent that it's hard to, like, can you still love the thing? Like he says, to all the people who now feel that their experience of the books has been tarnished or diminished, I am deeply sorry for the pain these comments have caused you. I really hope that you don't entirely lose what was valuable in these stories to you. If these books taught you that love is the strongest force in the universe, capable of overcoming anything, if they taught you that strength is found in diversity, and that dogmatic ideas of pureness lead to the oppression of vulnerable groups, if you believe that a particular character is trans, non-binary, or gender fluid, or that they are gay or bisexual, if you found anything in these stories that resonated with you and helped you at any time in your life, that is between you and the book that you read, it is sacred. And in my opinion, nobody can touch that. Which, by the way, I think is part of the reason this is hitting people so hard, that the Harry Potter books are so much about all of those things. They are about overcoming prejudice and banding together, even if you have, if you're different. If, like, celebrating the things that make you unique and different and maybe on the outs with film society and fighting against people who are trying to push one very narrow view of what it is to be, a wizard. But that's a pretty easy metaphor to what it is to be, a person. And so when you have an author like this who's kind of coming out being a bigot, it clashes so harshly.
Yeah.
So what do you think of this, Mia? Any of that? I
think Daniel, that was a really kind of eloquent way of saying that I never pictured before, because I think we've had these society has had this conversation at this point time and time again now, just because, finding out what these creators have said or done or, all these things. But I will say I do like that he's kind of like, it's between you and what you were able to take away from, in this case, this piece of literature. Because I think what makes it easy is that it's kind of like, a book, you've already read it. You don't have to buy the book again, like, music, or listen to it over and give it like streaming money. And you're like, I don't want to support them in this way. But it's kind of like a one and done thing, right? You've kind of read it, maybe read it a couple times.
Sure.
And it's sat with you. And I feel like in that regard, it can help you kind of distance yourself from the creator, distance yourself from JK, because... And this is another thing where it's like, I'm trying to watch my words.
Of course.
It's not easy. It's just really not an easy thing to do. But I think if you have learned something, if it is something that has helped you, that's something to use to your benefit, and you can just kind of quietly acknowledge that and say, well, I've learned from this. What? It's like, kind of like having a friend or having a toxic partner, right? Where you had some experience with them, you might have had some good times. You might have had, some fights and these things, but you learn from them in the end. And if it really is just toxic, you walk away from it, at least, knowing that, taking what you've learned in the past and growing from that. So, boom.
What do you think of the notion of, like, if you're a Harry Potter fan, should you get rid of your books? Or like I'm thinking of like, and again, I'm just bringing in more controversy into this. I can't stop. Help me. Like when the Michael Jackson documentary came out, and it kind of explored his dicey past. And I'll be honest with you. I have like a hard time sort of listening to, like, when a song comes on the radio, I'm a little bit uncomfortable. Like, and I love Harry Potter too. And I'm like, how do you, and I don't have the answer to this, by the way. And if anybody out there is listening, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah. How do you kind of reckon with that you have something that, like, you maybe want to reread or re-listen to or rewatch, or like to a Cosby Show with Bill Cosby, something like that. But because, like, is it tainted forever, or can you go back and enjoy it? Like, can someone who is a trans person, and obviously I'm not asking you to, like, speak for them, we can't speak for them.
Of course,
go back and enjoy Harry Potter again, just knowing that the person who wrote it is spreading this message, like using her 8 million strong following platform to spread this kind of message. I think it puts fans in a difficult position with some tough cases.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think, kind of like going back again to what Daniel Radcliffe said, was it's kind of, it really is a personal decision. It really is like up to you to ask yourself those questions, and to evaluate, what does it mean going forward? Can I detach myself from this material? And, if I want to enjoy it, can I, or if it's just better to cut ties altogether than to do it. I think it's kind of like, the support, I think, like, monetarily is kind of where you draw a line. Like if you're renting a video or, streaming a song, then I feel like that's kind of, I would say, and maybe I'm getting a little bit offhand too, but different in a way because it is like certainly giving them support to where it directly affects that creator because they're like, oh, well, you know, now somebody is listening or they're doing whatever, they're streaming my movie. Whereas, I don't know, I think I've kind of went off on a tangent here, but
it's very easy with this.
At the end of the day, it's very complicated. Like I think one of the books on my stand over there, you know, it's Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which she didn't write, right? But it's from her, so I almost feel kind of safe having that on my book, you know, on my nightstand. But it's really something you have to evaluate. I don't think there's a right or wrong thing to do.
Neither do I.
And it all really just kind of varies by the situation. I think I will still be a Harry Potter fan, kind of just because of, you know, what it meant for me growing up. And at least to an extent, the whole thing is not problematic. There is, you know, the Lee Jordans and the Cho Chang problematics, and that gets into a whole nother discussion at the same time. But
we could keep going forever.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, as Julie says, separate the work from the artist, which I think is the ideal. And yeah, I like what you said about just it being kind of an individual choice.
Yeah.
Like, you can like problematic things just fine. In fact, it might even be necessary too. Someone said that at some point. So yeah, I have no problem with that. I like leaving it up to the people involved. Mm-hmm. But woof, this has been a rough one. Did you also see that Ice Cube tweeted out like an anti-Semitic conspiracy?
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what was going on there. I just saw him trending, and then I saw the symbol, and I was like, Ice Cube, my dude, what are you doing?
It's nuts. It was like, oh, there are it was like, so there are these like 4 black blocks in parts of the world, and then you put them in a star of, what are you talking about? It makes no sense. Maybe. And
there was no context. He didn't even say anything. I was like, so what are you trying to say, Ice Cube? Please.
Maybe the whole getting to know celebrities thing was a mistake.
Yeah.
Maybe we just shouldn't do it.
Just have a different Twitter island where there's no celebrities and you don't tell them about it.
Or just get rid of Twitter. Or just, because I don't know. You know, I'm always of two minds about this. And also, like, all this stuff, like, in the midst of the Black Lives Matter protest, in the midst of the coronavirus, during Pride Month. J.K. Rowling's coming out during Pride Month. Yeah.
Like, please. Just, I don't know. It's like when you have to step back and keep defending yourself, it's like maybe you need to take a step back and realize that you are probably doing something wrong. Or just stop altogether. Just stop. Just please.
Oh, my God, it's been a week. I like what Luann says. J.K. is the author of Harry Potter. It is his own story. The two are separate. I don't see or think of J.K. when I watch HP. I just enjoy the story. I do too. I mean, yeah, frankly, I don't see it affecting me that much. I think it's like different for different people or like different mediums too. Like we'll move on shortly, but like I think it's easier to separate like the Harry Potter story from J.K. Rowling than it might be to separate, say, like Michael Jackson's songs from Michael Jackson. I'm saying, because like he's singing them and dancing and all that stuff. But like when you read the book, I mean, you don't have to think about the person writing it if you don't want to.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
that's a good point.
Like by degrees. It's a complicated miasma. Maybe we'll get into it more on Wit Club. I don't know. I'm so tired. I wanted to talk about. Okay, do we have anything else to add to this?
I would love to move on.
Okay, great. I didn't want this all to be just touchy subjects, hot topics of the show. So let's talk about a couple more lighter topics that are more in our wheelhouse of fantasy, sci-fi, fun stuff. Let me ask you this, Mia. Have you been to Narnia?
You know what? You always put me to shame because you read so many books and I don't.
No, see, but I don't read many books. I just make the outlines for the show when I choose the subject of the books that I've read. It's very different.
Okay. Yeah. No, I never ever read the Narnia books. Which actually they're quite old, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're old, like so around the time of like the Lord of the Rings books back in the day.
Okay, yeah, because I remember my mom talking about Narnia, so I was like, wait a minute. But I did see the movie, the first movies when they came out, so I know a little bit about Narnia.
Yeah. I mean, Narnia is a classic series. C.S. Lewis,
Mm-hmm.
Lion that Talks, etc., and so forth. Beloved book. I read it when I was a kid. Show off. And for a while, we've known that Netflix is going to produce apparently like both a TV show and movies.
Yeah.
Not quite sure how that works out. But we haven't heard anything for a very long time. And then I think the Netflix France Twitter account just put out that the Narnia movies and series are still in the works. Like, I put this in like the post Game of Thrones like a fantasy wave. Like, this is right up there with like The Witcher and Lord of the Rings show and Wheel of Time. Like, we're going for these big TV show fantasy properties. But that is basically confirmation that it's still on the way. I think it's cute. I mean, it's more like kind of for kids. Like the Narnia series is what it's intended to be. My fear with something like that is that an executive at Netflix would be like, we're going to do the Game of Thrones version of Narnia and make it like Aslan's going to rip out the queen's throat. It's going to be blood everywhere, something like that.
Yeah. I never thought about that. I think they can kind of find a way to still make it kind of down to earth for kids. At least that wasn't my first thought. I thought it was still going to be something for kids, a movie in the series. Especially because, I mean, kids are such a big audience anyway. Kids will just sit there and put on Netflix and never turn it off. So it's a really great guaranteed audience, if they want to save kind of the throat ripping I thought, who's it? Aslan, right? Isn't he supposed to be like a metaphor for Jesus or Christianity? So they couldn't
supposed to be.
They couldn't do that, could they?
I would say don't underestimate the power of trends. I mean, they shouldn't do that. That'd be a terrible idea. But I mean, I don't know. You look back at like other trends, like the first Narnia movies were completely made because of the Lord of the Rings movies. And this Narnia TV show is completely getting made because of Game of Thrones. Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
And, like, for those movies, they pumped them up and made them more epic because Lord of the Rings did that. Even though they're not, like, they're pretty, like, kind of, like, small kind of fairy stories in the books. Mm-hmm. Like, the subject material is one thing, but Hollywood trends are very powerful. So that's where my in this one, Aslan's gonna tear people up. Fear comes from a little bit.
That is really interesting to think about. Yeah.
Oh, like it was those. It was the His Dark Materials movies came out after Lord of the Rings. Like, there was a gold rush of those big things after it, and we're seeing it again. And it's just a matter of which ones float and which ones sink, and how they handle them.
Yeah, it's the circle of Hollywood.
Circle of Hollywood. As Lisa says, I would love to see a Narnia show and movie, but really, not everything has to be GOT. I completely agree with you, Lisa. It shouldn't be, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, my only fear is, like, Hollywood folk, in my experience, kind of, like, work on what was popular 3 years ago, and then they just kind of slap it on to whatever they're making now.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to be like GOT. I'm just a little afraid that they're going to take it and make it like that anyway. But we'll see when it finally comes out.
Yeah. That's kind of like the what's the Netflix series that we were talking about last time about the King Arthur, the Lady of the Lake. And it kind of looked like a sexy Riverdale show. So who knows?
That is complete. Yeah, that is definitely King Arthur. Game of Thrones meets Riverdale. That's what that show's going to be.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with, honestly. I could do it. And finally, speaking of Game of Thrones, we had one. I just wanted to run this by you. Mia, would you watch a show where Hafþór Júlíus Björnsson, or a.k.a. Gregor the Mountain Clegane from Game of Thrones, the guy who squeezed out Oberyn Martell's eyeballs in a one-on-one duel, would you watch a show where he goes head-to-head with elite athletes in tests of strength?
Ooh. What is it?
It's called Beat the Mountain, and it's the Mountain's own reality show. First of all, really quick, he didn't call it Climb the Mountain. Why not? Like, Why not?
I know why. Oh, I know why not. You know what? Maybe I'll pass on that explanation.
Okay, how intriguing.
Not
Afterwards.
It sounds not safe for work, doesn't it?
Climb the mountain? I don't know. I mean, like, you know, it's a mountain. Like, you climb it.
I maybe sure.
All right. Anyway, he has a new reality show. He's trying to do it. Is that something you're interested in watching, Mia? Is this the good weird or bad weird?
You know what?
Yeah.
Almost right up my alley. There was this show, I think it was with like Stone Cold Steve Austin, the wrestler. And it wasn't a beat him, but it was like this, competition show of strength. I love, oh my gosh, American Ninja Warrior. I love that show. I love all those Wipeout shows. So oddly enough, that's something that I would be interested in seeing. This, I wish there was like a Coliseum we could watch this in or something.
Safe. I mean, honestly, I would do it too. Although, in the comments, we are getting some very negative reactions.
Oh no!
Just straight no from Julie. It does sound one-sided, doesn't it? Yeah. What's that gonna be like? Like, you are like 6'8" tall and weigh 400 pounds. Like, who's gonna come in to face you? Who? And Luann Miller, no, just no. Can't disagree. I just found that funny that he's trying to trade on
music. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah. I would like to see those. I think I would like to see the challengers, see the fails, and seeing people get knocked down on their butts. That's why I would be all for it.
Yeah, that guy trash talks a lot. Like, he and Colin McGregor have a little feud going. Like, they fought once. He has a full-on high school style, like, just like slap fest going on with like another professional strongman named Eddie Hall, where they're like going back and forth at each other. It's like, you don't know what it is, you cheated, and like, oh my god, this is so middle school lunchroom. And
boys, please.
And they're like gonna have a boxing match, and it's just like, can you imagine like two 150-pound guys in a boxing ring? Like, how will it with them? So he's a character, definitely.
Oh yeah.
I say sure, give him a reality show. Put it on, I don't know, ESPN 96 and see if anybody tunes in.
Great content for fans.
Anything you or anyone out there who's listening is watching? Anything new or anything old?
I watched this week on HBO, I May Destroy You, with Michaela Cole from Chewing Gum. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I would say, if we're still talking about diversity, it was really interesting to see, because it's based in London. So to see a predominantly Black cast in London after watching, all my Doctor Who's and all my Sherlocks and stuff, I was like, wow, there is diversity in London. But no, yeah, it was really cool. I've never watched Chewing Gum, but I've heard this one is obviously a lot more dramatic than her last series. And it's going to get a little deep too. It's going to talk about sexual assault, but it's still kind of just like it was a lot more lighthearted. She was a very relatable character, and I love that when shows are only 30 minutes. So I was like, yes, I could just watch this in one little quick go, and I can, continue on to do whatever else I want to do. So I'm going to see what the next episode is like. I think it comes on Sundays.
I agree with you. More 30-minute shows, less full hour long shows.
Yeah.
By the way, Carolyn asking, is Game of Thrones coming back? No, it's not, Carolyn. We're talking about this this new reality show that one of the guys from Game of Thrones is trying to shop around. We'll see if that goes anywhere. I would not want to say no to him if he got in the pitch room, but that's another issue entirely. There is a spinoff coming. That'll be down the pike. I started watching Space Force, and I think it's kind of cute. I think it's fun.
Yeah,
I'm not hating it.
My brother said something that I completely agree on, because he just finished it this week. He says Space Force is a show that I like, but I don't think it's completely funny. And there are moments, I don't know how far deep you are, and you might like the humor. I think it's a little subjective as well.
Oh, of course, of course it is.
And I was like, yeah, that's what I agree. It feels kind of, it's interesting, but I'm not sure. To me, some of the jokes don't always hit the way that they should. And I know humor is subjective and stuff.
Yeah.
So if I gave Space Force a really, really bad review, I hope that did, make things too bad. But when she
Didn't seem
said
to
that,
love
like, I was like, yeah, I think that it, like, on the outside is a good show. I would have liked just a little bit more from it.
As Julie is watching the one with Mark Ruffalo, that one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Replaces his own twin on HBO. That looked pretty good.
Yeah.
White Blind is excellent.
I know this much is true. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good title. Lisa Flores says, "What we do in the shadows? 30 minutes? Oh, I'm definitely watching."
Oh yeah.
Lisa, I'm not kidding. That show always looked cool to me, but I was like, another hour-long drama. I don't know. I have to go back to the sitter. But if it's a half hour, I actually will probably.
I don't know why. It's kind of just like now, if I see something, I automatically assume it's 30 minutes, or you have to put in the 40 minutes to watch it. So that's pretty. I like digestible stuff. Wow.
I mean, like, I would settle for 43 minutes, like the old network show. Like,
yeah.
And I mean, like, I still, so for example, I just started watching, like, I finally got proper into The Last Kingdom on Netflix. I've been saying I will for a long time. And that's a long way. And it's good. It's worth it. But, you know, you can't really have, like, too many of these hour-long shows.
Yeah, especially, I used to like that because Netflix, you know, wasn't kind of constricted to, you know, commercials and everything happening on the half hour. It's like, wow, this episode is, you know, an hour and 6 minutes. It's, you know, but I think that's kind of worn off for me in most cases.
But yeah, good to watch. And Lisa, thank you. I will probably check that out now because it'll be a good kind of comedic addition. I like to mix it up, like watch like an hour-long thing and a comedic thing, half-hour thing.
Oh yeah.
All right. Any other comments, Mia, before we sign off for the day?
No. It's a good talk.
I think so.
A good talk. High five.
Oh, Julie, I mean, like, I love the 1 hour shows too. It's just, it's like hard to watch a lot of them at once, I find.
Exactly, yeah.
But I mean, they can do things the shorter ones can't. There are good things in both ways. I'm going to leave a link here for the Wick Club, which is our specialty area where we give away prizes, extra videos, and articles. Kablam. So if you check it out. And we will be back next week for the normal free show at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Facebook. Oh, I have no book in my room. Never mind. Oh, well. See you then, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.